Hello, and welcome back to another brand new review. And this time we are getting ever so closer to finishing off the Star Trek movie rewatch reviews that I've been doing, where we're now at Star Trek 8 First Contact, my personal favorite Star Trek film, and one that I keep lobbying that is the best Star Trek movie. And hopefully, in this video, I can explain why. Now, if you see me looking down, that is because I have a notebook beside me, not with notes to go over, but just topic points to go over, because this is the fourth time I have attempted to make this video. The first three attempts were going off completely off of memory and trying my best to make sure I got everything I wanted across. That then got everything muddled up here, and then I struggled to get from here out of my mouth. So I went away for a day. I came back. I have some notes to help me do this because I wouldn't be able to do it without doing so. So, with that being said, let's get started with this review of Star Trek First Contact. So, if you are new here, you might not know that myself and fellow YouTuber AJ over at AJ's Movie Place have this back and forth, jokingly back and forth, on which is the best Star Trek film ever made. He says it's Wrath of Khan. I say it's First Contact. And last month, I done a Wrath of Khan review. And I don't know how well that's gone down because past Michael here, which I'm recording this on the 13th of May, my Wrath of Khan video hasn't come out for me yet. It's not due out until Monday for me, the 15th. So, yeah. So I don't know how well that's gone down. But obviously you will know in the future. And so will future Michael. So now it's time for me to do the opposite of talking why I don't think Wrath of Khan is the best Star Trek movie, which I had similar issues with that I'm having with this video. And like then, I took a day off and I managed to do it just right. So hopefully I can do it with this one. Without any further ado, what is Star Trek First Contact about? Well, it's a time travel revenge movie. In a sense, it mainly focuses on time travel, but a particular character who was scarred by the Borg 6 years prior to the Battle of Sector 001 gets his revenge. But before that, the movie opens up with Picard having two nightmares about the Borg. He then wakes up properly. He gets a incoming message from Starfleet HQ where they attempt to inform him that the Borg are on their way to Earth again, like they were 6 years prior. And Picard instantly knew because he can still hear the Borg in a sense, which we later found out in Picard season 3 was intentional, which Picard thought it was, and everyone thought it was Aromatic syndrome. It wasn't. It was because of the Borg. They left something slightly different with his DNA code. Anyway, enough spoilers from Star Trek Picard. So Starfleet is more than capable, thinks that the crew of the Enterprise E is more than capable of assisting in this fight against this Borg cube, but not of Captain Picard, and he would be proven right during the movie. So they are sent to the neutral zone, and after they get message that they've engaged the Borg, they decide to ignore their orders and go directly to the Battle of Sector 001, which at that time, a lot of ships destroyed, a lot of ships badly damaged, including one of the USS Defiant on loan from Deep Space Nine, with the only Deep Space Nine character on that ship being Commander Worf, because he was, originally a crew of the Enterprise. And so the Enterprise comes in, Picard hears where's to attack, they destroy the cube. But just before the cube can even leave, it jettisons a Borg sphere that time travels back to April 4th, 2063, the day before First Contact Day. So they go back. Two, two teams are split because the Borg sphere, as soon as it gets there, is immediately attacking Montana, which is where the Phoenix is resting, the first warp capable human vessel, designed by Zephram Cochrane, who did have an appearance in the original series. To I think different character. I'm not that far into my original series rewatch to know. Um, so someone can correct me in the comments if it was a different Cochrane versus the Cochrane that we see in First Contact. Anyway, so as I said, two teams are split. We have Riker and an engineering team down on Earth, helping to fix the damaged Phoenix so that it's ready to make its warp jump at 11 a.m. the next morning. And we have Picard and Worf and Data aboard the Enterprise as the Enterprise is being slowly assimilated by the Borg that beamed over onto it during the when the shields were down on the Enterprise E after it came out of the time tunnel. So stuff happens. Data gets captured. Turns out there's the Borg Queen, and in the end, day saved. Queen is killed, or at least one of the queens is killed. The queen keeps tending to pop up even after you whacked her a few times. Data does indeed whack her, but not in that way, in another way. Um, and they all go back. Phoenix makes its warp jump. They make first contact with Vulcans, and that's that. They go back to their correct timeline. So, yeah. Now, fun fact about this movie is it's actually the last Star Trek movie to use physical models. They made models, they used all the old models, of Kit Bashes from the Galaxy class. I'm pretty sure there was a Galaxy class in there, Birth class, but it also introduced us to new ship classes such as the Sovereign class, the which is the Enterprise E. We also see an Akira class, as well as some of its variants, one of them being a Steamrunner class. And then there is a third class of that, which name escapes me at the moment. But yeah, this is the final movie to use practical models. Now, as I was saying, this is kind of a revenge movie, and that's mainly for one person in particular, and that is, of course, Captain Picard. Because as I said, the admiral who said that Starfleet doesn't trust a captain who was formerly assimilated by the Borg was correct. Because once he finds out that the Borg are on his ship, whilst he's down on Earth, he beams back up with Commander Data, and he goes on a massive rampage. Even at one point, going into a holodeck, disabling the safeties just so that what would have been a holographic bullet becomes a real bullet, and he opens fire on them, and he doesn't even care that one of the Borg was an assimilated crewman, Ensign Lynch. And even after he's wasted all the bullets, he goes to use the Tommy gun to essentially whack the dead Borg. And so, yeah, his psyche, not the best. He wants to do damage to the Borg like they did to him. Which is amazing to see because in the next generation, we only ever see the ramifications of Picard's assimilation in 2 episodes after The Best of Both Worlds Part 2. That being the next episode in Season 4, Episode 2, titled Family, when he returns to the Chateau Picard vineyard, before his brother, his nephew, and the brother's wife get engulfed in flames. Um, and then again in the Season 5 episode, I Borg. And that's it. That was the last time we seen any of the scars from Picard's assimilation. Even when they encounter Borg again, granted these are X drones in the two-parter Descent Part 1 and 2, Picard has no reaction to them, like he does in Family, I, Borg, and even in this movie. He treats it neutrally. Now, granted, again, Next Gen is a episode of the week. Everything goes back to honky dory usually. Um, but still, I would have loved to see more of the ramifications of Picard's assimilation. I mean, yeah, it is seen with in Deep Space Nine's opening episode, Emissary, and again in Star Trek Picard with Captain Shaw. But it's not really. It was only really explored fully in this movie, and that's what I love about it, is because we get to see Picard break his normal character, and he's on the attack pattern, and that's one of the many reasons why I love this movie. So speaking of the Borg, this is the first time we ever get introduced to the Borg Queen. We would, of course, then later see a Borg Queen in the two-parter Dark Frontier in the Voyager season 5, and would be a reoccurring antagonist throughout the rest of Voyager's run. Now, a lot of people are confused by why the Borg suddenly decided to attack Earth, especially, with just one cube. And there's been plenty of theories floating around. My personal favorite theory is that, at this point, which is in just before season 3 of Voyager, or during when season 3 of Voyager was airing, uh, obviously the Borg had encountered species 8472 and were at war with them and losing badly. So they came up with the idea, well, if we assimilate Earth in the past, prevent first contact, well, then maybe we might stand a better chance against them, species 8472, in the past again, and maybe we'll actually assimilate them this time. Obviously, that doesn't happen because, they get defeated at the end of the movie, and a lot in Voyager. So, yeah. Now, I say this is a revenge movie, and there is another revenge movie that I need to compare it to, and that being Wrath of Khan, because Wrath of Khan is Khan's revenge on Kirk for marooning him and his people and his wife on SETI Alpha 5, not checking up on them for 15 years, I think it was, and, having SETI Alpha 6 be destroyed, knocking SETI Alpha 5 out of orbit, yada yada yada. Whereas when I first watched Wrath of Khan, that had no effect on me. Khan's Revenge, because that was my first introduction to Khan. Uh, because I never started with the original series. I started with Next Gen and Voyager when I got into Star Trek. And it wasn't until years later, even after watching Wrath of Khan, that I went back and watched Space Seed, which again was an episode that was underwhelming to me. It was hyped up to be one of the best episodes of the original series. I went in with high expectations, and I was sorely misinformed. The episode isn't as good as people say it is. That's, again, my opinion. So, comparing that then, of course, to to First Contact, everyone is on point in this, especially Picard. As I keep saying, this is his movie. This is dealing with the ramifications of his assimilation. We finally see more of the effects that has on Picard. He instantly knows straight away, before the Admiral even says it, that it's the Borg. And he then, of course, defies his orders, proving them right that he should not have been in that battle. But at the same time, if he hadn't, then timelines would have the Borg's plan would have been successful. So it's a double-edged sword with that. And I'm pretty sure he would have gotten a formal reprimand, nothing too serious, when he came back. I'm pretty sure the time agents or whatever, the people who visited Deep Space Nine after the episode Deep Space Nine season 5 episode Trials and Tribulations would have visited them to make sure that they didn't fuck up the timeline and all that. Um, but yeah, to me, just First Contact is a better revenge story because I'm more invested in it than I was with Wrath of Khan. As another key thing was, I went into this movie blind. No one told me. Like I knew it was going to be one of the good ones because I keep mentioning that it's odd ones are the worst, even ones are the best. But I still went in with no expectations and was blown away, especially with the beautiful design of the Sovereign class Enterprise E. So why do I love this movie? Why do I think it's the best Star Trek movie? Is because I th- I'm trying to put that into words. And it's not going well. But I think that comparing it to Wrath, it it's better in some places, not so good in others. And I know a lot of people will argue that the Borg shouldn't have a queen, yada yada yada, drunk Deanna. That drunk Deanna doesn't bother me in this movie. It it just doesn't. Those that it does bother, fine, but that shouldn't be your sole reason for not liking this movie. The same with the Borg Queen. So what? I mean, the Borg Queen has been done to death because of Voyager and even now with Star Trek Picard, but she's still an interesting enigma because we keep thinking we've killed her, but she keeps popping up saying, "Surprise, I ain't dead," or you're thinking in three-dimensional terms instead of four-dimensional terms, or something like that. I don't know, but it's just to me the point when I watched it as someone who got into Star Trek, and it was one of the very first Star Trek movies I ever watched. Not including Nemesis, when I was 3 or 4, it had a lasting impact on me. Whereas Wrath of Khan just didn't. And some might say it's a generational thing. You know, Wrath is so much more layered and yada yada yada. And First Contact is perfect for someone in my generation who can't have an attention span of more than 5 seconds. If that's what you think, fine. But to me, especially with Sir Patrick Stewart's performance and the performance of everyone, was excellent. And seeing it as one of the first Star Trek movies, I latched onto it. So I don't know how long this video is because I'm recording on the back camera, so I'm going to find out now. But thank you all for watching. I hope I managed to explain why I think this is why this is my favorite Star Trek movie, and why I think it's the best. If I failed to do that, I'm sorry. But if I have, I hope you enjoyed. Hope you got to understand why I think it is. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next upload.